Alrighty, everybody, this is Blake with Xima Software, and we are here again for another tips and tricks moment with Chronicle. As you probably noticed, Chronicle looks fairly different right now, and that's because we have just released version 3.8 of Chronicle. So that is now available. If you have the opportunity to upgrade, I definitely recommend that you do. There's some great things, great features that are now part of this. One of them in particular we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And what we're going to discuss today is something that we call Scorecards. Okay, now Scorecards does require you to have the recording library license. So if you do not have recording library, unfortunately this will not work. But if you do have recording library, then you will have the ability to create these scorecards. What are scorecards? Scorecards are just a great way for us to help you, or to help us overall, I guess, help anybody overall, to evaluate the performance of each of their users and groups. Okay, so that's the idea behind these scorecards. All right, so in order to access a scorecard or to create a scorecard, all you have to do is come here to this recording section. Now, obviously, Chronicle here looks different as well. We're going to come over here to our menu on the left, and we're going to go ahead and hit recording. When we do that, we get this drop-down list, and we're going to come down here where it says Score Recordings. Now, with Score Recordings, what you're going to see is what we call campaigns. Okay, so what is a campaign? A campaign is a set of criteria, questions, and agents or groups that determine which recordings will be surveyed and rated to monitor agent performance overall. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to be able to take every recording that's made, or all the recordings that are made, and be able to score them, okay, and evaluate how they've done. So in order for me to create one of these campaigns, obviously, like you can see here, I've got several created already. But in order for me to do this, I'm going to come over here to the right of my screen where it says Create New Campaign. Now, when I create a new campaign, I have to decide, do I want to do this for groups, or do I want to do it for agents? I'm going to go ahead for today's purposes, and I'm going to say agents. Okay, so from here, after I select that, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, once I hit OK, what will pop up here is the opportunity for me to create the parameters for this scorecard, or for this campaign, excuse me. Okay, so over here in the top left-hand corner, this is where we create those parameters. The first thing it's going to ask me is, what do you want to call this campaign? Well, I'm going to be super creative. I'm going to call this Blake's Campaign, if I can spell properly. There we go. Okay, so there's Blake's Campaign. Now I get to select, hey, when do I want this to start surveying my calls? Now, here's the deal with this. I'm going to come in here, and I can actually start this whenever I want. So even if I want to start this in the future, so in other words, I can say I want to start serving calls on November 24th. Thanksgiving. Okay, at that point, it will start serving calls from that point on. Or I can go back maybe to September, October, whenever I want to, and I can actually start serving calls from any point that I want to. So I'm going to go ahead and say the 1st of this month, and then I'll hit OK. Now from there, I have another option. I can also, where it says expiration date here, as you can see, this is optional. Now, that means I can leave this campaign open and just have it continuously surveying calls for as long as I need it to, or I can give it a close date. Maybe I want to have this only survey calls for the month of October. So I'm going to come in here to click to define again, and I'm going to choose the 31st, Halloween. There we go. Okay, so I'll choose the 31st. So that means it's only going to survey calls from the 1st through the 31st. Now what that means is once the 31st hits, after the 31st, that campaign will expire. What that basically means is it will no longer be surveying calls during that time frame. Okay, and in other words, I can still access the information found in those surveys, but I will not be able, it won't continue to survey calls because that campaign has ended. Okay. So that's what that means there. Now, with here, I get to come in here and select the specific users that I would like to be monitored. So I'm just going to come through here and select a handful of the guys that I work with. There we go. I did select the right one. There we go. So I've got a few guys here. I can do this by group as well if I want to, and we'll go ahead and hit OK. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do there. Now I get to tell it how much I want them to be surveyed, or how frequently I want them to be surveyed. So scoring amount, I get to say, okay, I want you to score 10 of their calls. Okay, so out of that month, I want to be able to survey 10 calls, and they're random calls, 10 of their calls. Or I can say, I want you to survey 15% of their calls, or 20%, or 6%, whatever. Okay, so that way it knows how much to survey that specific user. Okay, so from there, I get to have the option here now to come down to question type, and I get to add my questions. There's no default questions, so I get to come in here and add my questions. What was the overall attitude? Okay, or let me rephrase that. Maybe I want to say, how was their overall attitude? If I can spell, there we go. Okay, then I get to have the opportunity to select the question type. Maybe I want to have this be a 1 to 10 question. Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, how they do. Perfect. Hit OK. Then I'm going to add another one. Was the problem resolved? Okay, then I can say I want this to be a yes or no question. Okay, let's add another one. Maybe I want to say any help that I can give, or any suggestions. Maybe that's a better way to put that. Any suggestions. Okay, so then I can say I want that to be a text question. So that means I have the opportunity to answer the questions using a paragraph or whatever I want to do. Okay, so I have 3 different kinds of questions: scale 1 to 10, yes or no, and text questions. From there we go. We've got my questions. I can also choose who I want to see this. Now, as a manager or administrator, I can see any of these campaigns, but if there are specific people out of my users, maybe I want to have Adam be able to see a specific campaign, okay, or whatever I want to do. But I don't have to give permissions if I don't want to. I also have the opportunity to add filters to this campaign. In other words, maybe I only want it to survey calls that have a park event. Okay, or maybe I only want it to survey calls that are an inbound call. Okay, so I can filter down even more specifically if I want. Once I have that done, guys, that's how I create a campaign. And then I can hit OK, and you'll see now I have Blake's campaign. Now, I don't currently have any calls in there, but you can see that it is currently active. It has started, and it will start to survey those calls. Okay, so I'm going to come up here to one that's already been running, where it says this one here, pre-owned campaign. You can see that I do have 142 out of 147 total calls unscored. You can see that this one has expired. That just basically means that it's no longer surveying calls. They're still available for me, and to do so, if I want to survey those calls or if I want to score those calls, I can do 2 things. I can either right-click on it and say score, or I can double-click on it, and that will open up those calls for me that it surveyed, and I have the ability here. You'll see here Brandon Whitaker. He's the first one. I have my media player up here so I can listen to that recording, and then I can grade him. Did you ask if they needed service? Yes. Did you offer a test drive? No. What was the level of customer service? He did a pretty good job, not great. Could be more friendly. Okay, there we go. There's my survey. Okay, those are the questions I created. From there, I can hit Submit Survey, and there we go. It's now saying that we have 6 calls that are scored, 141 out of 147 that are unscored currently. Let's come back in here, and I'm going to go ahead and show you something. I'm going to go ahead and click down here where it says Score Next and show you what happens. For Brandon Whitaker, again, did you ask if they needed service? Yes. Test drive? Yes. Maybe they did a much better job on this one. Great. Okay, there we go. Now this time when I hit Submit Survey, what will happen is it will actually take me just right directly to the next call. And then I can go through and survey that just like I did on those previous calls. Okay, so really, really simple to do. Overall, this helps me to gauge how my users are doing. I can give them a better idea of their performance, and I can evaluate them in a stronger way. So that's how you use Scorecards. That's how you do it. Never hesitate, guys, to call in to us, ask us for help if you need anything from our support staff. You can reach them at 1-888-944-9462, option 4. We are here to help you in any way now, especially since we have version 3.8 out. Let us know if you have anything. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.